Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Four Chicks Chatting. Yay! I hope you guys have enjoyed our latest podcast. I think that we've had some tremendous guests, and I think that we've had some great topics too. Some of the feedback that we're getting has been really awesome, so we appreciate that. Keep it up. Today is a topic that, well, it's kind of near and dear to my heart because sometimes I just don't have it and I need more of it. But we're going to focus today on clarity.
Can we just talk about the fact that we're recording this on Halloween and you are wearing a unicorn headband? Because I mean, if we're talking
Let's put it out there.
clarity and let's be clear that this is Halloween and you have a unicorn headband on. I'm just putting that
For
out there.
those of you who know me and appreciate me, you could say I am a unicorn.
You are.
So there
But
you have
don't
it.
you
Happy
think-
Halloween, everybody. Where's the spirit?
But don't you think that unicorns, actually, now I'm going to make a segue here. So
Look
hold
at
on to
you.
your seats.
Hold on to my
Because-
ears. I've
Hold
got
on
my
to your
ears.
unicorn horn.
On my horn.
Hold the horn. Hold the horn.
Because it's very easy to spiral off into unicorn land and be distracted by shiny, funny, pretty things, because we all like them, and lose that focus and clarity that we really need to move forward and be productive. There you go. What do you think
Well,
about
there we
that?
have it. Thanks for joining us,
There you go.
everyone.
Okay,
and,
we're done.
Hope you get
It's
lots
my
of good
brilliance
candy.
bomb right there at the beginning of the show.
Is anybody else clear enough to have a conversation? Does anybody have any clarity today? Anyone?
Where do you even start with that? I mean, let's start with that. Where do you start? How do you start to find clarity in your business, especially because a lot of the people that are in our audience are solopreneurs or entrepreneurs or people who are kind of doing this on their own. And we all know that, I mean, the magic of Google and the internet and all that is that there is a wealth of information out there. But how do you know where to start? Like,
Me,
okay,
me,
yay,
me,
go,
pick me,
yay!
pick me.
Yay!
You in the back, Robin.
You with the hair.
With the big hair
God.
that's pushed down under my.
It's a rainy Halloween.
It's humid today.
very
Yeah,
rainy
it's
Halloween.
humid. So those blessed with long, beautiful curly hair are having a moment.
Yeah, exactly. So I talk a lot about this in my branding program and with my personal branding clients and even my headshot clients, because you have to have clarity on what you do, who you serve, and your why before your audience is going to be clear on what you do. Part of this is related to niching down and identifying what your focus is. But I talk about my branding equation, which is taking a look at your values, your visions, and your passions. And when you combine those three things, you're going to have your answer basically as to what it is that you are meant to be doing, what it is that's going to fuel you, and what it is that you're going to be able to serve other people by doing.
I'm going to piggyback on that with being starting your own business and being an entrepreneur. And this is something that I see with my clients and I've also experienced myself. But when you start out, you think that everybody is your client. You are here to serve the entire universe. And that's what you do. And so, when you're creating your plans and your social marketing and you think, okay, well, I can't believe, no one's calling. Why aren't they calling? Well, because you're not speaking their language and they're not really interested in what you're buying because they're not your audience. And so I think you kind of have to start there. And as Robin said, niche down. And then I think you'll be able to focus a little bit more. And I found a quote, which I thought pretty much summed this up. I was going to save it for the Brilliance Bomb, but it's relevant here. Businessman Thomas Leonard, back in the 30s and 40s, his idea of clarity was that clarity affords focus.
I like that.
Boom.
It does. And
Yes,
Kath,
Chip would say.
you
Boom.
hit, you kind of hit the nail on the head, because without clarity, you cannot create content that is going to reach your ideal audience. So
Right.
you're putting all this stuff out into the world, and the wrong people are going to end up calling you and finding you, and then you're frustrated because they're not the people you want to work with, and they're frustrated because you're not serving them the way they want to be served. So it's really important to have clarity on every aspect, clarity on what you do and who you want to serve, and then make sure that that content you create is completely clear to your audience so that they completely understand exactly what you're going to do and the problem you're going to solve for them.
So this is so serendipitous that I just heard this podcast episode this morning on this Premier Speakers podcast. If you ever want some really good inspirational stories that are in a very short, like 10 minutes, it's a really cool podcast. And I listened to it because I wanted them to represent me someday. So I'm getting to know the clients that they serve. But so piggybacking on all of that, I just listened to an episode where Donald Miller was talking about storytelling. Sorry. And he gave an example where you have to be clear with one focus for your customer, your audience, whatever you want to insert there. And the byproduct of that, what his example was, and I'm not going down a political rabbit hole, but just as an example, everybody keep your minds out of hate and whatever. He says that election with Trump and Hillary, she had so many things she told America she was going to do that people they couldn't retain. They were overloaded. There was no focus. And the whole world, whether they liked Trump or not, knew his one focus. He was crystal clear on one thing, and that drove all these people. He was so clear, so focused look at it was crazy, the upset that went on. But it's a very good example of what you guys just said, that your customer needs to know exactly what your thing is.
But that actually brings to mind a question for me, because, and going back to that example, again, simply for the purposes of this conversation, his thing was very nebulous. I'm going to make America great again. How does that translate when you're trying to sell a product to somebody that they need? Like, do you have to, I guess what I'm getting at is, how specific do you need to be?
Well, that's where the branding comes in. That's what
Okay.
Robin's whole thing is. Everybody got behind him because they wanted change. They wanted to be back to where they were successful and making money, and all the business people backed him because that was the overarching brand. And then they would go and listen to the how.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, it attracts them in, it brings you the followers. And then, I changed all of my taglines to Champion of Hope when I got that award. It's a bigger brand of stick with me, and I'll show you how hope can carry you. And then I got to get into the nitty gritty now of here's how you do it. That's actually what my next book is. I'm working with a coach. Here's the steps that you take, but it attracts that whole people following you and wanting to know more when you have that one focused brand.
So it's okay for that to be somewhat large, at least in terms of a statement, and then you work down into the details.
Right. Look at Coca-Cola, for example, one of the biggest brands we have in our country. They're Coca-Cola. It's red and white. You have the Coke bottle, but look at everything they have underneath them. They have different flavors. They now have the unique soda fountain machines. They have water. So, they have different products under that umbrella that have specific names, and they target specific audiences. But they're one big umbrella.
So you can start with, figure out, if we're trying to tell people how to get clarity, figure out what your overreaching, your big message is. Whether it's hope, whether it's, for me, it's like the 15-minute master thing, for whatever it happens to be, figure out what that one overarching message is, and then maybe come up with your tagline or something that gets a little bit more detailed. And then the steps beyond that are detail how you're going to deliver that to your client.
Right. But you also have to think of, like, when you have a personal brand and you're creating a business, you want to target a specific audience, and that your ideal client should be so specific that you can actually name her, and what kind of car she drives, what kind of handbag she purchases, where she shops. Does she have kids? Does she not have kids? Does she watch Netflix? You know, you have to know like so many details about your ideal audience in order to target them specifically. You know, is she a woman of faith? Is she not? If you look at, like, say, Stephanie Gass, she has built her platform on knowing exactly who she wants to target. She's targeting moms who have a business, who, you know, drive a minivan, who trying to think of some of the things, but I mean, she's named her ideal audience, her ideal client, so that she can direct her content as she's creating. She's thinking of exactly who she's talking to. Like my ideal client's name is Lucy. And when I'm creating my content, I'm thinking, okay, Lucy has this question. She needs to know how to create a personal brand. And then everything I'm putting out there from a content perspective, from a business perspective, is related to what she needs to create a personal brand.
So clarity can be created by asking yourself what your client's question would be.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
You have
Okay.
to have the answer before they even ask it.
Mm-hmm.
So think about when you're selling something, two things. One, when you're selling something, a confused customer never buys. So
That's great. That's a
you
great.
have to be
that's a great tip.
super clear with that. But when you're selling something, typically, what are you providing for them? You're either saving them time or saving them money. So think of that. And so how are you going to do that? So at the end of the day, if they want a successful business, they know that their team needs to be more productive. Okay, well, that means you're going to save time on other things that are draining your energy and not increasing your revenue. So you kind of have to work backwards, right, Mary Fran? How long have I been saying that?
I know,
As long
I
as
love that.
as long as I've said I got to rock. So since I was 7 years old.
As long as you've been celebrating Halloween.
Halloween
Right?
forever. I gotta
So
rock.
what is the outcome? Where do you want to be? What is the problem that you need to sell? And then I'm going to put the steps in place to do it. And those steps are going to make sense and be concise and clear.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Well, I mean, I think we're talking about something that is sort of two pronged in a sense. Like, you have to have clarity yourself, but then you also have to make sure that that message is clear to your potential customers.
Yeah,
Mhm.
100%. It's two-sided because you want them to be completely clear on what you do, because you want to make sure that they're the ones calling you and not Joe Schmo who's just going to be a big pain in the butt.
Yeah. And that can't happen until, in fact, it was, who said, what's your why? One of you guys brought that in. Okay. So Robin, I have been listening to, because I'm trying to put together an online course. And I've been listening to this woman named Liz Benny, who is, she's from Australia, and and she's huge in like marketing and like social media courses and all this other kind of stuff. But one of the first things that she talks about is, what's your why? Be very clear on what's your why. Why are you doing this? What maybe pain point, like Kathy, you had said, what's their problem? What pain point are you trying to give them a solution for?
Yeah.
That's it. We're
Yeah.
solution providers.
Yeah.
And
Simon,
then if we like, so to put this in sense of business also, and how you then communicate that, look at Madeline Sklar. She is crystal clear about helping people use Twitter to build their business, but she can do that she's on every platform, not just Twitter. And she figures out how people communicate on those platforms, but brings it all back to, I can help you build your business on Twitter, but you might find her information somewhere else. She's very crystal clear.
I should insert here that for our listeners, if you didn't listen to we were lucky enough to have Madeline on as a guest. And I don't know what number podcast it was, but look it up if you are using Twitter or feel like you need to use Twitter to build your business and attract your customers. She's got amazing tips. So get your pen ready.
I'm co-hosting. I'm on her tweet chat
I'm going to
next week.
find out which
cool.
episode that was for you.
Yeah, I'm
guys.
stressing out about it.
You're stressing out?
Tweet chats. I'm the expert on the tweet chat. You have to keep up with that real fast.
It is fast. It
Yeah.
really is fast.
I'm crystal clear that I'm having a heart attack over chat.
Let me tell you,
you
I've
can
never
have
even
clarity.
I've never even figured that out. I have zero clarity when it comes to Twitter and tweet chat.
Yeah, I am so not good with that stuff. Well, we all know this. I'm not telling anybody anything new.
It's
Here
just,
she
you know
is.
what?
She was episode 42.
42, everybody.
Episode 42. And
Who
we'll
was
put
that?
that in the show
Jackie?
notes.
Jackie Robinson? Was that his number?
I think
42?
that was his number,
Look at
For
actually.
all our
you.
sports
Being
fans
all-
out there.
Wow,
Look at that
that's
unicorn.
impressive.
Right?
That is impressive. Yeah.
I amaze myself. I just want to say that, Kristen, when you said about having a heart attack, I think we can be clear on the things that we don't want too. Like we can be clear, we can have clarity about bad things or negative things. We should, we're very clear that we don't want to have X, Y, and Z.
That may even be a good place to start, Kath. I mean, if you are
yeah.
not exactly clear on what you are providing, what are you not doing?
Yeah.
What were your pain points? Like what were the things that were really a challenge for you? Like, and that you definitely, you want to stay away from that. Maybe that's a place to start if people
Yeah.
aren't exactly sure how to approach the whole thing. I mean,
kind of easier that way.
I've had difficulty with this whole thing, and maybe that's why I'm asking a lot of questions of all of you, whom I consider to be experts and really smart chicks,
Aw.
because I had that issue too, Kath. Like my market is every woman on the planet.
Sure.
Okay, well, my message may resonate with every woman on the planet, but every woman on the planet. And let's face it, this is something that I am selling. So maybe that's another thing you have to get clear on. Who is going to pay you for this?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe we have to even, if we're going to run viable businesses, we have to go beyond who's going to like this to who is going to pay you for it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I think, Mary Fran, when your audience is that big too, you can still narrow it down based on, you can have one message for millennials to get them to buy it. You can have another message for, somebody between 60 and 75. And you can have another message for someone who is in the throes of raising children and, overwhelmed, and they have teens versus toddlers. So,
Right.
I mean, you can create different messages that are completely clear to those individual audiences that they would fall under your big umbrella, but then you're targeting them specifically so that they understand how your program or your book is going to provide value in their lives.
And I think, Robin, that is huge. But if you don't it can be an overwhelming thought. Oh my God, how do I take this message and I, detail it to each of these groups? It's not that hard.
No.
Because the general message is still the same. You just frame it for that audience. And I do this all the time when I talk to different groups of people. My general message is the same, but you frame it to an audience. You say, okay, here's who you people are, and I'm talking to you because blah, blah, blah. And then here at the end of it, you kind of reiterate that. Here's how it works for you, and you reiterate that at the end. So I would say to our listeners, don't be afraid, pardon me, to recognize that your message may be applicable to different groups, and it's not impossible or a completely overwhelming amount of work to make that resonate with them.
I'm going to go back.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say back to selling. You can have a product or a service, but and that you've created, but what you do is you customize it for every one of those clients. So you use the word frame, Mary Fran, and I'm using the word customize. Clients or customers love to hear that you are customizing a solution for them and that they're not getting an off-the-shelf canned product that everybody else is going to get.
Yeah.
So in that customization process, it becomes way clearer to the customer that you're solving their problem, not just a problem that somebody in their position has.
And sometimes you have to provide that clarity for people because they may not understand. I mean, anybody could look at your book on the shelf and they could think, well, does this apply to me? So then it becomes your job to provide that clarity for them.
Yeah.
If you want to sell.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Well, we should probably start to wrap this episode up, don't you think?
Yeah, Kristen had something that she wanted to add. Sorry about that, Kay.
No, that's okay. I was thinking of it in terms of a speaker and telling a story, and when you're telling your story to people, and when you're going to customize or tweak it, it's like think of a PowerPoint slideshow. You can have the main slides the same, and you might put something in the beginning or something at the end to land the plane differently
Yep.
for people. Same with our books. You know, there are chapters that I'll pull out for certain audiences and hone in on just those pieces. I mean, a book called Thriving Blind can actually help women going through divorce too. Just different pieces you pull out of the same content.
Did she just say land the plane differently?
She did, which I thought was amazing. Look at us.
No,
we're pilots
no.
now.
I want to land the plane in the way the plane is supposed to land. I don't want the pilot to say, you know what, I'm going to land it on 2 wheels today. Not all of them. I want to have that. That's something that I'll buy off the shelf. I want the plane to land in the way the plane was built to land.
Can we get a 4 Chicks flight and I get to land the plane? I want to fly it.
Oh,
I
hell
want to
no.
fly it.
Nope.
I'm not on that plane. No.
Over and out. Over
Nope.
and out.
Nope. No, sir.
On
I will
that
have
note,
incredible top shelf beverages for you all, but
Well, I might
fly it.
consider that,
even
but I
if
would
you
have
were
to.
selling or providing Cristal, I am not getting on that. Anywho, so yeah, let's wrap this up.
Brilliance bombs.
Let's land the plane.
Oh, good Lord. I'm going to go back to the one that I gave earlier in case anybody was tuning out. I'm going to say it again. Clarity affords focus.
For both the customer and the provider, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Whisper down the lane. Go ahead, Robin. Go. You have to use the word P. It has to begin with a P.
Has to be going to P.
Well, it's
Pause.
provider. That was the last word. Pods.
Oh.
Okay.
Pause. Pause and make a list of your values, your visions, and your passions, and that'll help you discover your why, which will then enable you to create content that is 100% clear for both you and your audience.
A.
Impressive.
Great. You have to
Impressive.
begin with an A.
Who,
A.
me?
Yeah.
K has to begin with an A? I don't know. No. I'm going to say what somebody else said earlier, that if you don't know where to start getting clear, look at what you don't want. You know, like in the book that I'm writing now, it's I knew as I was trying to overcome challenges, I just did not want to be the victim story. That's where I started. I knew what I didn't want and then started from there.
Yeah. And
Good
I have to
advice.
go back to Cass always, that whole work backwards idea, till you get to the root of the whole thing, and don't be afraid to recognize that your product can work for different groups, and it's easy enough to reframe that or customize, as Kathy uses it, and make it clear to each of those groups how you can help them.
Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. We hope that we provided a little clarity to you and to your life. If you guys have any tips, please follow us on that social thing, and you can leave some comments on our Facebook page too. Our audience would love to hear any tips that you have for gaining some more clarity, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.